Get ready for the Very Visible Business Podcast with David Avrin. Each week featuring a candid and raucous conversation with some of the most innovative, outspoken, and entrepreneurial business minds in the world today. This is the Very Visible Business Podcast. And here's David Avrin.
And welcome again to the Very Visible Business Podcast. I'm David Avrin, and I am super stoked today. Can we say this as a nearly 55-year-old man? Stoked to be here with my buddy, my guest, John DiJulius, a pioneer, a revolutionary in the field, in the category of customer experience. He doesn't just do it; he takes it to a level that is almost ridiculous. And there's some fun stories and some anecdotes that I want to share about what he does, but really his finger on the pulse of how business is shifting, how we transcend commodity and doing it with customer experience, with a really extraordinary one that gives you something really, not only to differentiate yourself, but it gives people something to talk about. And as we like to say, if you want people to talk about you, give them something to talk about. So before I officially greet him, a quick introduction. International consultant and best-selling author of 3 customer service books, including his latest book, The Customer Service Revolution. From Greenleaf, instantly hit #1 on Amazon. John works with world-class companies like Ritz-Carlton, Lexus, Starbucks, Nordstrom, heard of them, I've heard of those, Nestle, Marriott Hotels, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Cheesecake Factory, Progressive Insurance, Harley-Davidson, Chick-fil-A, and many, many more. He isn't just talking about it, he lives it, and I can attest to that as well. As a very successful entrepreneur of 2 businesses, John Roberts Spa, which is a chain of upscale Cleveland locations, has been repeatedly named one of the top 20 salons in America, and the DiJulius Group, a consulting firm focused on challenging the world by creating a customer service revolution. He demonstrates how we can make our customer service our single biggest competitive advantage, and ideally even making price irrelevant. John, thanks for being with us here today.
Thank you, David. I'm so pumped, very excited, and I'm almost 55, so it might just be our generation.
I know it, and I do this for my kids, and for those listening, I'm just putting up my hands. I'm this many. There you go. It's a whole lot more than the kids who hold up. I'm 6.
But we're the new 20.
That's what I'm saying. I know, right? So you're pumped. I'm stoked. Listen, I have admired you from afar, and I've been thrilled to get to know you and to call you friend as well. I had the great opportunity last year to speak to your seminal event. I mean, this has become such a must attend. At the time was called the Secret Service Summit, and I think too many people misinterpreted that it had something to do with the Secret Service. My fiance, we had a conversation, and literally for 6 months leading up to this, she thought I was speaking for the Secret Service. And so she was kind of like, are you able to promote the fact that you spoke for them? And I'm like, what? And she says, for the Secret Service. I'm like, no, it's a customer service summit. But it was, so you could tell us a little bit about the genesis for that. But of course, now it's called Customer Service Revolution. It is the must attend. And for those of us in the speaking business, it's also the must present at. It is Carnegie Hall for speakers to be able to be in front of your audience. So tell me a little bit about your event, and then give us a sense of your background and what drove you from your experience in business to recognizing the real power and the value of an enhanced customer experience.
Yeah. So the Secret Service Summit was the title of my first book, Secret Service, which was all about customer service. And it was the name of our conference for the first 9 years. And the real reason we changed it is because the Secret Service actually called us and asked us to.
Did they really?
Flattering that we were, on their radar. And I said, well, can't you guys just change your name? And they didn't seem to think that was too funny. So we changed the customer.
I think it's very funny.
I didn't mean it to be funny. I was dead serious. Like,
right.
Change your name, right?
Yeah.
But
secret anyway. What's the problem?
Right. So my back. So it's a customer service revolution now, and you crushed it last year. You were, I think, if not the highest rated speaker, and there was a pretty impressive lineup there of great superstars, and you were the #1 or top 2. And
I think Mel Robbins knocked it out of the park as well. But it was great. It was a great conference. Daniel Pink and Mel Robbins and Neen James and so many others. And then looking at the lineup this year, and I know I'm taking you off the question I asked you about
I don't remember the question you asked me, but I got some of your friends. You recommended some speakers.
Yeah, Eric Chester and Mark Sanborn.
Yeah.
And Judd Lapley, who's great. People know him from the Evolution of Dance.
Yeah.
And so there you have a stellar lineup. And at the end of this podcast, we'll give you a chance to give you your website and everything else so people can look that stuff up. And a lot of people will be listening to this post that event, but it's an event you do every year. But talk about your history in business and how you sort of grew to recognize the importance of that experience.
Yeah, it was basically survival. 25 plus years ago, me and my wife opened up a very small 900 square foot hair salon with 4 chairs and 4 employees. And we didn't have much of anything. We didn't have any employees, we didn't have any customers, and we didn't have any money. And so the only way, that I thought of that, we could be different than literally you could throw, if you had a weak arm, you could throw a rock and hit, 5 other salons, up and down our street. I mean, it was just loaded with hair salons. So how are we going to be different? I couldn't build a nicer place at the time than anyone else had. And, we were, had some good hairdressers, but we wanted to be world-class customer experience, not world-class hair salon, but world-class benchmark against any experience a guest could have that day after they left. And that was free back then. And so it started making a significant change. And fast forward 25 years ago, that's still where we put all our time and energy. And we don't advertise, we don't market because there's nothing that'll give you a better return on investment than the customer experience. So try to go at a quick level here. People started to take note in our industry, the beauty industry, and so they asked me to speak. So I started speaking more for, as an ego boost that someone actually wanted me to speak and talk about it. And then
were you talking specifically to the health and beauty
salons and
gotcha.
spas. And so I was downstairs in the basement, hidden in a breakout room where I belonged. And then we had, the big hitters on main stage, the Tom Peters, and back then Michael Gerber, and, the well-known. So I would wait in line with everyone else. And when I'd finally get up there, I'd say, I'm a speaker too. And they were great. They were very nice. They took me seriously. They gave me advice. And so one of the advices was, write a book. So Secret Service came out in 2002. And that basically took me out of being a salon owner that spoke a little bit to a speaker that owned salons. And then, it just took off from there. And it's evolved to, 15 years later, 16 years later, it's evolved to a consulting business. And we have a lot of consultants that are traveling and just working with some really good companies that, quite honestly, we probably learn more from than we even teach them. No one bad hires us, as you stated.
Absolutely. I saw the list, and listen, you were being very modest and overly modest. You have a phenomenal team. You work with some of the biggest organizations in the world to help them create those great customer experiences. Tell us a little bit about your process when you go in and work with them.
So we have a methodology that we have found that world-class customer service companies all have in common. So we call it our 10 commandments, and it's, first you have to have a customer service vision statement. And then the second commandment is creating a world-class internal culture. It's attracting, keeping the right people, high morale. So it goes on from there. And that's what we do when we go in and work with a company, from an engagement of 6 months to 5 years. And we just knock out that methodology and help them build it from, the service vision statement, changing everyone's DNA and making sure that we're attracting future generation employees that will believe in this, and then creating the experience that is a disruptive force, unlike anything that they've seen in the industry before.
Right. Well, and the other thing is, and I read your Customer Service Revolution book, and I thought it was sensational. And what I like was,
you're the one.
I'm the one. I know. I say the same thing. People's like, "Oh, you are the one. You and my mom." No, but here's what I really liked about it. It was very enlightening for me, because as you talk, and I know you're being very good at trying to be sort of expediting. Yeah, we kind of do this process. No, you have a real heightened radar for sort of maddening behaviors that that are really counterproductive for where they should be. I was thinking in your book, you tell a story about a place right next to an Apple store.
Yeah.
Tell our viewers and our listeners about that, because I think that illustrates probably as much as anything else the crazy mindset, because we're a little bit myopic in our business. But tell that story.
Yeah, that's a great. I never tell this story, so I'm kind of glad. So I was at Apple. I'm a recovering Apple addict. Just got the new SX mask. I mean,
I did too yesterday, by the way. So
the watch is coming. I am, I have to have it first, which is the worst, shopper you can be. But anyway, so I love my Apple. I was in there buying a computer, buying stuff that I was in there for a little while, and it was going to be a while before they, got it all packaged up, and maybe they were transferring, old data onto my new one. Right. And all of a sudden I had to go to the bathroom really bad. So I asked them if they had a bathroom. And today Apple will let you, but back then I don't think they had the security of allowing you to go in their back room and all that. So they said, no, we don't have one. There's public restrooms, way down, but right next door you could use there's a little smoothie shop. I said, oh, great. So I ran to the bathroom, used it, came out, and went back in, closed up my order. And by that time I was hungry. And, so I went back with my order and went into the smoothie store, and I ordered a wrap and a smoothie. I said, is the owner here? And they said, well, the franchisee. I said, yeah. So he came over and he thought, I had a complaint. I said, I just want to thank you. I go, this is great that you let, Apple customers come in here. And I was trying to tell him I wouldn't have known you exist. And right. He erupted me. He said, they told you can come over here? And I said, well, yeah. And he goes, oh, my God, I'm going to put a stop to that. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I go, this is why I came back and spent $11 and, I was starving and I didn't even know you existed. And, he goes, well, and so he was just irate, didn't get it, was mad, and totally didn't see it. And it reminds me of another story. There is a little bank in, southern Tennessee that put a free Coke dispenser in their lobby.
Right.
And people would just come in and take a Coke and go to the line. Well, then their managers would call the owner and say, hey, there's people coming in and taking the Coke and running out. What should we do? Nothing. That's totally fine. And then, they'd come in and take 5 bottles and run out. What should we do? Nothing. I want people to do that. He gave away so much Coke that the other gas stations were complaining that they were losing business. But he said he just became known for the free Coke place, and it just drove him so much goodwill, and everyone knew of him because of that.
Brilliant.
And the only thing better than foot traffic outside your door is foot traffic inside your door, right?
Well, and
Come
in my new book that's coming out, I wrote about this maddening policy. And I think, honestly, it's one of the cruelest policies in business, where they don't let anybody use their bathroom. I mean, and it goes back to the one before. And I thought about that with your scenario. And I found online, somebody had a great sign, and I'm going to paraphrase this, I'm going to get it wrong, but it said, clearly this is a time of need for you. So you're welcome to use our restroom. And while you're at it, feel free to enjoy or buy a cup of coffee. We think it's the best in town. And I think it's so brilliant. But to tell people, no, you can't, it's only for paying customers. So how many people have bought some crap that they would never have bought before, a pack of gum, something, just so they could use the restroom? Well, guess what? Now they use the restroom. They're never going to come back because you made me do something stupid, as opposed to being human. My God, we're human beings. People who need to use the restroom. And yeah, those of you listening or watching come up with 1,000 reasons why it's a bad idea. And what if somebody is a transient, or somebody isn't, so what? Everybody deserves respect. I mean, they're crazy policies that we drive people away because we're just not friendly.
I hate the word policy. Don't use it.
Yeah.
Don't use it.
It's the B word.
Right. Because, David, as your customer for 10 years, 5 years, I know that you created policy to protect yourself from the masses. I'm not the masses.
Right.
I know, David, I got his cell number, and your frontline employee. But worse yet is what it does to employees, because an employee will never go against policy.
Right.
Policy, black and white with walls. And yet there's sometimes when, they should. And, we want our employees to use their best judgment and to feel empowered and to, and I've had a horrible experience. My first business, the salons and spas, where we had a horrible policy 15 years ago, 20 years ago that said, if you no-showed for your appointment, your credit card got charged. Okay. We're penalizing the 2%. We're penalizing the 98% for what we're afraid 2% will get away with. Well,
and you're guaranteeing that they'll never come back.
A guest calls me up, tells me that she no-showed on Saturday because her husband dropped dead. And that she told our manager, and our manager said, sorry, that's our policy. And I was appalled. But I also wasn't mad at our manager, who still works for me. She's a rock star, but she was under the impression you don't go against policy. You could lose your job for policy. So now we have guidelines, no policy. Use your best judgment. If you think, just do it.
We hired these people for a reason. And when we rob them of the opportunity to be creative, to solve problems, and you and I, we both understand why companies do it, but it is so counterproductive. Right? It's to guard against our colleague and friend Shep Hyken, who is also in the space and wonderful speaker and author and great friend. He's got a great thing where he says that empower your people within your organization. He says nobody should ever have to get a manager to say yes. They should only get a manager if they have to say no. And I love that. And then one of the things I love about you as well is it's not even if sometimes, and I think we're on the same page about this as well. Sometimes the answer is no. I mean, I've heard people say the answer is always yes. What's the question? Sometimes it's not. I mean, we can't. But there's this thing, and I think I saw it in your book as well, is there's times you have to say no, but you can always follow it with, let me tell you what I can do.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
What a monumental shift in thinking. There's so much we want to sort of shut that, or they want to shut it down. Sorry, we can't do that. Sorry, I can't give you a late checkout, right? But I have this whatever meeting. Sorry, I can't. But those people say, well, let me tell you what I can do. We have a whatever suite that if you need to
absolutely.
use.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's simple alone. Because talk to me a little bit about your thoughts about the differences between customer service and customer experience.
Well, Jim Gilmore said it best, the author of The Experience Economy. He said, customer service is what you do. Customer experience is how you do it, right? And, customer service.
And what they get.
Right. Customer service is a transaction. Customer experience is a feeling. It's an emotional experience that you got to take it to a different place that no one else is doing. And that can be as small as how we answer the phone. Right. Thank you for calling ABC. This is John. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with? David Avrin. So you give it to me. I start typing in and I pull up, oh, David Avrin. He's from Colorado. He's the last time he ordered with. And now I can start providing that secret service. Yep. Is, what's the fall like in Colorado right now? And did you enjoy your, nuts and bolts that you got last month? Are you calling to place a new order?
Well, here's what's interesting. The people that we talk to, most companies think they have this down, the customer service, and they think it's fairly straightforward. Treat people like you want to be treated. Treat them like family. And I laugh about this when people say, the whole idea is we treat them like family. It's like, I've seen how some of you treat your family. Not necessarily the best admonition, but customer service is kind of interesting. And here's my thought. I'm curious as to your impression as well. It has become the point where that they think it's just that interaction. Are we being friendly? And are we being friendly enough? And the experience. And I want to talk, and I'm going to let our listeners and our viewers in on some of the things that I think that you do are so over the top that it just makes me smile huge. But customer service has sort of come to mean in some organizations, the customer service department is the complaint department. I mean, they call that that's because, and somebody had written, whoever wrote the book, More is More, as a nice counter to less is more, and said, if you have to spend enough money to create an entire department to deal with the people who are unhappy, can we not reallocate those dollars to make them happy in the first place? Right? I mean, if you have to have an entire department just to deal with people who are annoyed or frustrated or pissed off, there's something fundamentally wrong with your business model.
And you're right. Customer service is defense. Customer experience is offense. And
Great.
that should be your best marketing tool you have. And all the companies that we all know of, they spend the least on advertising because they have, raving fans that are doing it for them.
Right. Well, it's funny. You look at some of the sort of the well-known examples, the Nordstroms or others as well. Everybody knows you can take anything back at Nordstrom's, but isn't it ironic or interesting that Nordstrom never promotes the fact that you can take everything back? They never talk about their customer service.
Right.
But we all know it.
Never.
Right. Right. They never have to because of that as well. So I want to sort of relate to others as well, just my experience with you and this stuff. When I first you and I had a great conversation on the phone. We had talked about me coming in and working with your organization. And what you modeled for me, the kind of work that you do with some of the biggest organizations and stretch their thinking and take off the blinders and open the radar to what opportunities and what a real experience looks like, one that is worth sharing and talking about, is when you and I had arranged I was going to come and speak for your Secret Service Summit, and then I got a package in the mail, and that package in the mail included Jeep socks, because somebody had looked online on my Facebook and realized that I'm a Jeep guy, and so I have socks, and one of them on the bottom says brake, and the other one says gas. So they're pretty awesome. I got a Northern Arizona University dad shirt because my daughter goes to Northern Arizona. And I'm thinking, who does this? Well, you do this, John. You and your team do this. And I saw this manifest even more so, and I'll share that in a minute, when we were at your event. But take me through a little bit about some of the teaching and how you model and manifest that in your organization. What a really remarkable, and I say remarkable in the sense that it's worthy of being remarked about, and your experiences are worthy of being talked about. Tell me about your mindset and how you indoctrinate your staff to model what it is that you espouse.
So it's just looking at every touch point, and it's also looking at all the multitude of customers we have, and whether it's the person in the cube next to you, your vendor that's supplying you with the widgets. So at a conference, typically people look at the attendees, the ones that are paying a lot of money to be there, and they are a customer, but we understand that our speakers are one customer. Without them, there'd be no attendees that would show up. And without them, we wouldn't have future speakers that are referred like someone did for you and you did for someone that's speaking, I believe Eric Chester this year. So we just look at, and so we create touch points. And from the moment that, we sign the contract with the speaker to the 6 to 8 months that are leading up to the event, to the actual event, to the post event. And, how can we, deliver, be brilliant at the basics, right? Make sure that, you're not wondering what time you're on and where you're going and all that stuff. And you can't miss that, because sometimes people could be really good at hitting the home run, but they flub the easy stuff. You can't flub the easy stuff. So you got to be brilliant at the basics, but then look for the opportunities where you really can make that, emotional connection. And as you pointed out, the second most important thing to people is themselves. The first most important thing is their family. And, so when you make a connection about your daughter going to Northern Arizona, that takes the whole relationship to a deeper level. So making sure that,
the fact that you think about this, I mean, that's a cultural thing, because I also asked you, because I'm going to tell everybody about another experience that I had with you, and that I had to ask you about this, because the best experiences are the best stories, the things that we share. Our lives are generally unremarkable. It's not that we're boring, but just we're very transactional in our lives, right? It's a lot of people we have to deal with on a particular day in the office, at the gas station, in the grocery store. but it's those remarkable, as Seth Godin talks about, right, in Purple Cow, right, is worthy of being remarked about. So your culture is beyond that you look for really extraordinary things. And so when I was at the summit this last year, and every table, we got round tables, and every table also had a concierge, which was one of your staff people from your salon. So you had these lovely ladies who were helping everybody, and they basically go around the table saying, what do you need? Do you need anything? And so I make a joke. Now, this is before I knew how ridiculous you were in business. And I say that in the most complimentary way. And so it said, do you have everything you need? And I'm like, I needed, was there not shrimp cocktail for something? And I just made some joke about that.
Oh, you were the one.
I was the one. No, sir. And if I had known, I wouldn't have done it because I felt bad because everybody just got water and saying, I'm like, did we not have shrimp on our rider? Like, as performers, everything in our dressing room needs to be white. We need M&Ms with the brown ones, taking out whatever else. So I made some joke about that. 10 minutes later, I'm sitting there watching one of the other speakers, just enjoying being a part of your conference. And the young lady comes and she puts a shrimp cocktail in front of me, like just me, like nobody else. And I'm like, what is this? And she says, well, you asked, and she shrugs with a smile on her face saying, you asked for it and we deliver. And I'm like, and I was embarrassed. I was like, I was kidding. She goes, we don't kid around here. If you want it, you get it. So I asked you about it later. And what I didn't realize was there was a team of people who were literally being dispatched. Somebody needs this, they go do it. They find it, and they find any way to do it. And so what I found—
There's always someone on the road in a car. So someone broke their reading glasses, go get a pair of reading glasses. Someone needs, shrimp. Go get shrimp. We always have somebody that says, yeah, I want a whiskey, and totally think, and we show up with, that whiskey and whatever they want.
But most organizations, John, think that a great customer experience is in the grocery store. Instead of pointing, they take them there, which is great.
I agree.
That's great. But it's so basic compared to what you do. So here's the other part that I still laugh about. And I tell this story, I tell this to others as well, is what I didn't realize was that in the months leading up to the event, your staff reached out to my brilliant assistant and business manager, Tiffany, and said, what is Dave like? And she was like asking me, I'm like, I don't know. I like Coke Zero and I like M&Ms or something. So I get to my hotel and there's a bag with all these things that I like, which I thought was really, really nice. But what I didn't realize was that somebody else there said, oh, what do you like? We like Guns N' Roses or something. I think it was that. And so we're sitting at the table and I'm sitting with my shrimp cocktail. And one of the other young women there, who was the wife of one of your speakers, apparently you guys got them tickets to go see the concert. They had, like, the night before, they had front row tickets to go see this incredible band.
So now you're kicking yourself. You only ordered shrimp cocktail.
No, I was kicking myself that I said I liked M&Ms. But here's
so that wasn't a speaker thing. We would have done that for anyone, right?
But tell me more about that. I'm going to shut up for a minute. I want you to talk to me about your thought process, the why, how does it manifest itself in terms of your behavior, and then in terms of memorability and shareability. How do you manifest that within your organization? What's the conversation with your team? And then how do you also do that with the clients that you work for?
Yeah, so it all starts, on the type of person that we want to attract. We understand, and this is, the foundation of what we teach our clients, is that the 95%, and I'm probably low, won't have the service aptitude that we need them to have. Any company needs them to have, right. Because our service aptitude is basically from our life experiences. And typically, we didn't grow up driving a Mercedes Benz when we turned 16, flying first class our whole life growing up, staying at 5-star resorts. But the moment we finished school and we got our first, jobs, we were expected to give that type of an experience. And that's just not fair. It's not realistic. I don't want my, customer-facing employees to go by the golden rule, right? My son who just graduated from college, if you hired him, today and said, Johnny, I want you to greet our customers the way you like to be greeted. Oh, he'd be like, dude, what's up? And have a fist bump on him. Yeah, and you'd have to probably, go get him a belt because his pants are sagging lower than they need to be, But that's the world he's coming from right now. But you give him, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it is of great soft skill training, and he, like the vast majority of people, can be rock stars. So we have to realize as leaders that it's our job. It's not our employees' responsibility to have high service aptitude. It's ours to train them like that. So, we start changing their DNA, and we start teaching them that the standard is so high. And it starts with the experience we give them. So, orientation is similar to what you experience, that we will know, their Ford, which is FORD, which stands for Family, Occupation, Recreation, and Dreams. We will know that they like, Swedish fish candy or whatever, and we will just, have that experience with them. So they are blown away, kind of like you were, and say, how did that make you feel? And get the reaction that you just gave. Well, that's what you need to do to the customer. And so, some of the other things is to create compassion and empathy, which is really hard because we all get numb to whatever we're doing. Like right. You said, me and you today, we have, back-to-back calls with clients and people. And, I shouldn't be looking at my 10:30 conference call as a 10:30 conference call. I have to understand that is, Alicia, who's the customer experience officer at, whatever company. And she has a lot on her plate. And, she's being managed by someone who the return on investment and her results and their NPS and I got to know that. And Nicole has to know that. We all have to know that. So what we do is we, for us and for our clients, is we create a day in the life of our customers, from, the speaker, what he's going through in order to get here, and that he has to, is another place. But everyone, whoever it is in the salon industry, it's not a 5:30 haircut. It's a woman. They had to get up at 5:30 this morning to get a workout in before she got her kids up and make lunches and breakfast and gets them off to school. And then she had to deal with her day and her customers and her bosses. And she finally pulls into John Roberts Spa, this oasis, her perception it's going to be oasis, that costs $150 that her husband's going to give her a hard time about spending. Now, we can't look at her as a 5:30 haircut. We have to look at her as, a woman that's dying for an escape and wants some help with her self-esteem. And, we all struggle with that of like, next. And
right.
So,
and who's really good at this is of course, Chick-fil-A. And for those who have seen
that video,
you can YouTube it and look at it online. That internal training video.
Every life has a story.
Every life has a story.
And have Kleenex. Have Kleenex next year.
Oh, I'm telling you, I used snippets of that in my presentation as well, and it is so powerful because it's their story as well. And so, but let me ask you this: there are those who are listening or watching right now, or thinking to themselves, how do I know everybody? Sometimes I can't, but we can look at profiles. I mean, I work with my audiences to create profiles for different people, give them a name, give them an occupation, tell me about their day, and what are the specific things that they would love and hate and frustrated, and what are the other choices. We can do it on a fairly broad basis that can really help us drive the kinds of experiences that we might envision and craft and deliver for them as well.
Absolutely. And it is dependent on the model, right? If we have appointments and a database, we can cheat and say, oh, I'm talking to David and he's from Colorado and he has a daughter in Vegas and he has a daughter in Arizona. And I don't know, one of the biggest mysteries is he has an incredible, beautiful fiance that just I'll never understand.
Clearly out of my league.
But you should have notes on that stuff, right? Non-creepy notes. And that goes back to the Ford, F-O-R-D, and family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. And it's everyone's job to collect that. And then anytime, you're about to have a call, you visit that. And it's not a transaction. It's not like, come on, David, we got to be chop. It's, you recognize it. If you don't have that luxury and you're in the retail business, you're at a Chick-fil-A, a Starbucks where they don't have appointments, they don't have a database.
Right.
It's about still making a connection. I call it the 5 E's, and the 5 E's take less than 5 seconds to do. The first 3 take 1 second to do. Eye contact, enthusiastic greet, ear-to-ear smile, right? So if I say, David, right? I just did all 3 E's right there. And then engage, it's about you, not me. It's about your day. It's about why are you dressed up? Why do you have a tie on? Do you have a big meeting? Do you have a hot date, whatever that may be? And then educate. So eye contact, enthusiastic greet, ear-to-ear smile, engage, and educate. Every time you deal with someone, you should walk away saying, there is no one smarter at their job than she was, than he is. And so, and you make a connection. So I might not know David. David might be the first time he's ever walking in, but you make a connection and you say something positive. I love those glasses. That's a great tie.
Right.
And if I can't find anything to compliment, I'll just say, I hope you enjoy the unseasonably warm weather you're having. So anyone listening, if I've ever said that, I apologize. I just couldn't find anything.
But the key isn't not the key to go through this scenario, go through these encounters in your mind, in practice, in training prior to that. It doesn't, for some people, it comes very naturally. Some of us are very gregarious. We've got enough repartee or game or whatever you want to call it that we can engage. Other people don't. But to create that culture within an organization, this takes practice.
It takes practice. So to that example, not everyone's like us.
Right.
But if they want to work in, our type of business, anyone that's, customer facing, they gotta be able to bring it. So we do a role play that, all right, so, we get 2 people up at orientation and I say, David, this is Samantha, your best friend from high school. You haven't seen her since high school. You two got in trouble together. You were in the principal's office together. Neither of you could run for political office because the other person has the baggage, which today would only help you get.
We'll let that go. Yeah, got it.
But anyway, so David, you see her at Hilton Head, you see her at the mall, wherever you see her for the first time in over 20 years. What's that like? And every time it's the same, double take. Samantha, is that you? And you come in, hi, and I say that's how you should be greeting every customer on the phone, face to face. And so the expression you should have, not the words, but when you see someone is there you are, right? When you popped up in the Zoom video, it's like, David, there you are. And it was genuine and it becomes genuine. But, there you are is such a great feeling. Like, David, of all the people I was speaking with, when I saw that you were on my, schedule today, I was so pumped to make a connection. Right? How are you looking at our experience today versus, oh, David, there you are. Come on back. Yeah, come on.
Next one, right? But doesn't it become a self-fulfilling prophecy as well? For those,
you feel better.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of pop psychology stuff, and you start the day and you look in the mirror and say, this is going to be a great day. You're a winner, or whatever that crap is. But the reality is when you smile at people, they smile back. It's the what's that old story about the warm fuzzies and the cold pricklies and everything else, right? And you give enough away and it comes back. And
you want to have your day. If you want to have your day made, make someone else's day. Because I always say, there's a great book, Life is a Day Maker, by a friend of mine, David Wagner. And he talks about paying the guy's toll behind you, right?
Yeah.
Whom you'll never meet. I hate that story because I read it to my sons and it's cost me like $200, right? But, you make someone's day. Who goes to bed at the night feeling the best? The day maker, right?
Right.
And if you create a culture, like, you don't think my staff that gave you, shrimp cocktail, she felt better than you did.
Oh, I know it. And and you could see it. There was just, they loved
She didn't have to go ask permission and say, is there any chance? And can I get a hold of John? When you told me that story, and I was like, oh, I'm glad we did that, right? I didn't know.
Oh my gosh. It was hilarious. Well, I'll give you another example. So I was in Singapore staying at, I think it was called the Shangri-La Hotel. And everywhere I went, people, the restaurant, the front desk, Mr. Avrin, welcome back. Thank you, Mr. Avrin, like constantly. And I finally asked the hostess at the restaurant in there, because I went down there for breakfast every day. And I said, honestly, how do you remember my name with this many people? And she says, oh, it's just our job to know. I said, no, honestly, tell me.
Right.
It says, your picture and your bio and everything is in the break room because they knew you were coming and they knew you were a VIP. And of course, everywhere we go in the world, we're a celebrity, we're a VIP. At home, it's like, hey, Mr. Big Shot, take out the trash.
Right.
But somebody had thought that I was going to be somebody important, but they said they do it for most everybody. And they put their face, they look them all up online, they create a small bio, they have their name. So everybody has to memorize. And I thought, what a wonderful internal policy. I had that happen in a resort in Mexico as well. And I came in, I checked into the front desk, the entire staff came, they want to take a picture, and they held up my book and asked me if I would sign it for their team. Like they had already bought it 2 weeks before.
That's awesome.
Isn't that a wonderful example of it? And
yeah.
I like how you differentiate, saying in those transactional kinds of retail environments, we can't know everybody, but we can, right? We don't have to know their specific story, but we recognize that they have a story and they have a life, and we don't want them to treat us like they want to be treated. If they're a 16-year-old boy, if they're a 21-year-old young woman, they don't want to be treated like we do. I'm the disheveled 55-year-old man who just got off a plane. I'm dealing with daddy guilt. My kids are texting that they're starving. I'm exhausted. I've got digestive issues.
You forgot to sign that permission slip.
Oh,
you could go to the the school.
Right. And so I'm harried. I'm exhausted.
I don't know that personally. I just know.
No, you've never been there. None of that as well. Hey, listen, I don't want to. We all have stuff back to back. I could talk to you every day, and you know what? I might find a way to.
Let's do it, man. Let's just make this a daily podcast.
This, or even just our conversation between us, because
I got a ton of questions for you. I mean, we can go.
We'll do that. Okay, so listen, before we finish all of our podcasts here at the Very Visible Business, I always have a lightning round. So here's the lightning round: quick questions, quick answers. What's the most outrageous thing you have ever done to thrill a client of yours?
Wow, I don't know if it's my team. I'm trying to think of what I have done.
For your team, for anybody else on your team, what have you guys done that made somebody go, really? Really?
I was speaking in Washington, D.C. I get there and the CEO asked, where the books were. And I'm like, what books? And, I just thought I didn't know about it. And so I get a hold of my office and say, did they order books? And they said, no. I'm like, well, I think we screwed up. Well, his assistant come over and says, it's not your fault. I forgot to order the books. And so she had to go, tell him. And, I said, well, hold on. Let's see what we can do. So next thing I know, by 3:00 in the afternoon, they showed up with, a couple hundred books. They flew to Washington, D.C. With a couple hundred books. I love that. I thought that was really cool. We didn't want the assistant to get in trouble.
Oh my God. Outstanding. That's great. Who's your dream client? Who have you not worked with that's saying, would love to work with this company, with this person?
Question. I've been fortunate to work with Starbucks. That was probably my dream client. But I didn't get to meet Howard Schultz, and he's the guy that if you can have lunch with anyone, I want to have lunch with him. I mean, I just idolize, everything he stands for as a leader and as a person. So I don't know if I have a dream client. I'd love to work with, the Apples and the Disneys of the world if I ever could, or Virgin Airlines. But I think, Howard Schultz, just to get him, to have his ear for 30 minutes and hopefully not use his ear, but listen to him.
Well, John, I will tell you that we have a little surprise for you. If you will look to your right, coming through the door right now is Howard Schultz. That's what you would do. That's what you would do with somebody else, because that's how good you are. Your experiences are just off the charts. One last question. How great is love the second time around? Awesome.
It was great both times, but I'm very fortunate, like you, to have found a partner woman that just, she makes me a better human being in every sense. So I'm just, I'm lucky. I
want to ask you that because we both have that in common. We are both very lucky men who have both outkicked our coverage. Just saying. For those who are looking to get in touch with you, learn more about the DiJulius Group, the consulting that you do, hire you as a phenomenal speaker. Look him up, John DiJulius. Look him up online as well, and you can see video of the work that he does on stage. Incredibly engaging, a great speaker. And I say that from one speaker to another. For people who want to get in touch with you, where do they go online?
Just the DiJuliusGroup.com. The DiJuliusGroup.com.
Spell that for them, because it's something.
I'm more excited about your book. Let's talk about your book.
No, let's not. There's plenty of that. My book, Why Customers Leave and How to Win Them Back, should be out.
Love that.
Official date, April 1st. Your new book is called what?
The Relationship Economy. That doesn't come out till later in the year, but I like your book. You were nice enough to let me read an advance copy, and I couldn't put it down, and it's some brilliant stuff. So
I appreciate it. Well, you'll like that I said something very nice about you, and you'll see that when the book comes out April 1st as well. So spell DiJulius, just because people are listening, and it's not a common name, so people find you online.
DiJulius, DiJuliusGroup.com.
Outstanding. Hey, a big thanks for my buddy John DiJulius here. Look him up. He does phenomenal work and is one of my heroes in this business, and also a wonderful opportunity through our mutual work for us to get together, and somebody who I didn't know before and I'm thrilled to know now. For those of you listening, be sure to click below and subscribe to this. If you want to learn more about me, you can always go to visibilityinternational.com. And of course, this podcast, big thanks to the folks at C-Suite Radio. Tune in every week. Look at some of the other episodes as well, and we will see you soon.
For past and future episodes, be sure to subscribe at theveryvisiblebusiness.com. You can also learn more about David Avrin's keynote speaking and consulting at visibilityinternational.com. Connect with us on social media and check out David Avrin's latest book, Visibility Marketing, at Amazon.com. This has been the Very Visible Business Podcast with David Avrin.